He just wanted to buy a special gift, but the moment he set foot in the store, he felt the heavy stares. "Is he lost?" the sales associate murmured to the security guard. What seemed like a simple shopping trip turned into a humiliating nightmare, and the ending to this story will truly surprise you. It was a sunny afternoon, and Daniel, a 28-year-old man, dressed in his best clothes for a special occasion. After months of saving, he had decided to buy a luxury bracelet as a gift for his mother, who was about to turn 50. Excited, he entered one of the most exclusive stores in the city. But as soon as he stepped through the door, the atmosphere shifted. Suspicious looks came immediately. A saleswoman with a forced smile quickly approached him. "Can I help you?" she asked, but her expression said something else. "What are you doing here?" Daniel noticed the tone but chose to ignore it. Politely, he explained that he was there to buy a gift. He even showed her a picture of the bracelet he had seen on the store's website. "That bracelet is quite expensive, you know," the saleswoman replied, her tone laced with disdain. "Yes, I know. Is it available?" he asked calmly. Instead of retrieving the item, she discreetly signaled to the security guard, who soon approached. Daniel noticed the gesture, but tried to remain composed. He just wanted to make his purchase and leave. "We have some more affordable items at the back of the store," the saleswoman insisted, her tone growing even more condescending. "I'm not interested in other items. I want this bracelet," Daniel replied firmly, but still polite. That's when the security guard, a burly man with a stern expression, positioned himself next to Daniel. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, staring directly at the young man while completely ignoring the saleswoman. At that moment, Daniel's discomfort turned into indignation. Why was he being treated this way? He hadn't done anything wrong. The guard's approach was direct and cold, but it carried an undertone of veiled prejudice. Crossing his arms, he fixed his gaze on Daniel, watching his every move, as if searching for something suspicious. The saleswoman, feeling emboldened by the guard's presence, flashed a smile that seemed more triumphant than courteous. "Are you sure you can afford anything in this store?" she asked, her voice dripping with cynicism. Daniel took a deep breath. He knew he couldn't let his emotions get the better of him, as any reaction would likely be used against him. He had faced similar situations before, but never with this level of hostility. "I didn't come here to be questioned. I came to buy something," Daniel replied firmly, though his voice faltered slightly, betraying his indignation. The saleswoman stepped back, almost as if he were a threat. The movement was exaggerated, clearly intended to heighten the tension. "We just need to ensure that our customers are here with good intentions," she said, crossing her arms. The security guard intervened again, his voice deep and commanding. "Sir, please open your backpack." Daniel hesitated. He glanced around and noticed that the atmosphere had completely turned against him. All the other customers, who had been absorbed in their shopping moments earlier, were now watching. It felt like a spotlight had been directed at him, exposing him. "My backpack?" he asked, trying to grasp how far this humiliation would go. "Yes, open it. It's a security procedure," the guard insisted, using the word security as a thin veil for the blatant prejudice. Daniel felt his blood boil. He considered standing his ground, but he knew that in the end it would be him against everyone. Reluctantly, he unzipped his backpack and held it up for the guard to inspect. Inside his backpack were a notebook, a reusable water bottle, and some documents, just the essentials for his day. The security guard looked at the contents and for a moment seemed to have nothing more to say, yet his stance remained unchanged. "And your pockets? Empty?" "Them as well," he demanded, this time with even more authority. Daniel froze, feeling the humiliation wash over him. "Why? I've already shown I'm not carrying anything illegal. Isn't that enough?" he asked, his voice now trembling with emotion. The saleswoman, who had been content to simply watch until then, decided to chime in. "If you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem, right?" Her tone was deliberately provocative. Daniel could feel the weight of everyone's stares. Some customers whispered among themselves, while others openly watched. The judgment was palpable, coming from all directions. Realizing that refusing to cooperate could escalate the situation even further, Daniel reluctantly began emptying his pockets. He pulled out his phone, wallet, and a few coins, holding the items in the palm of his hand as if presenting evidence of his innocence. "Here it is. Are you satisfied now?" Daniel asked, staring directly at the security guard and the saleswoman, but neither of them responded. Instead, they exchanged glances as if deciding what their next move would be. Daniel, his heart racing, realized that his dignity was being stripped away piece by piece, and no one seemed to care. He looked at the other customers, hoping for some kind of support, but all he saw were neutral faces. Some even looked uncomfortable, as if they just wanted the disturbance to be over. A woman whispered something to her husband, who replied, "I knew. He didn't belong here." Daniel heard the remark and felt a lump in his throat. That silent prejudice cut deeper than any words spoken directly. He thought about his mother, about the gift he wanted to buy to show his gratitude, and wondered if it was even worth continuing. Then the situation took an unexpected turn. A well-dressed man who had been observing everything from a distance stepped forward. His expression was serious, and his footsteps echoed through the store, bringing an awkward silence. "What's going on here?" the man asked, his firm voice breaking the atmosphere of hostility. The saleswoman, trying to hide her nervousness, replied, "Oh, nothing serious, sir. Just a standard procedure." But the man didn't seem convinced. His eyes were fixed on the security guard and the saleswoman, and there was something in his demeanor that made it clear he wasn't going to accept shallow excuses. Daniel, still holding the items in his hand, glanced at the man, trying to figure out who he was and why he had decided to step in. The silence lingered for a few moments, but the presence of the elegant man seemed to carry a weight that no one in the store dared to ignore. He was tall, with impeccable posture, and his perfectly tailored suit made it evident that he wasn't just another ordinary customer. His piercing eyes surveyed the scene calmly, but his expression conveyed evident disapproval. Daniel, still clutching the contents of his pockets, took a deep breath. He didn't know who this man was, but it was clear that he was either on his side or at least willing to understand the situation. I asked, "What's going on here?" the man repeated, his tone firmer this time, as he stared directly at the security guard and the saleswoman. The saleswoman forced a nervous smile and stepped forward. This customer was acting suspicious. We decided to follow protocol to ensure the store's safety. The man raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical of her explanation. He shifted his gaze to Daniel and then back to the security guard, who was now avoiding eye contact. "Suspicious? Because he asked to see a specific product?" the man asked, his tone dripping with irony, making the saleswoman flinch. "Well, not exactly, sir. It's just that—" she began, but her voice faltered. The man sighed as if he already knew the answer before hearing it. "Let me guess. He walked into the store, was treated with suspicion, forced to open his backpack and empty his pockets, all because you assumed he couldn't afford what he wanted to buy. Am I right?" The silence from the saleswoman and the security guard was all the confirmation he needed. Other customers, who had previously been mere onlookers, began murmuring among themselves. Some appeared embarrassed for having stayed silent while the humiliation unfolded. The man stepped closer, staring the security guard down. "Tell me, which part of your training includes judging a customer by their appearance?" The security guard tried to defend himself. "Sir, that wasn't the intention. We were just following protocol to prevent problems." "Problems?" the man interrupted, his tone sharp enough to make the security guard take a step back. "The only problem here is how you treat people." He then turned to Daniel, who was still visibly shaken. "Young man, are you okay?" Daniel hesitated for a moment before responding. I just wanted to buy a gift for my mom. I didn't expect to be treated like this." The man nodded, as if he had heard stories like this many times before. "I understand. But don't worry, because this situation will be resolved right now." He turned to the saleswoman, who now appeared visibly nervous and on edge. "Do you know who I am?" Her eyes widened, a mix of confusion and fear. "No." "Sir," the man gave a faint smile, though it carried a chilling undertone. "I am the owner of this store, and I do not tolerate this kind of behavior in my establishment." The revelation struck like a bolt of lightning. The saleswoman turned pale, and the security guard seemed to freeze in place. The murmurs among the customers grew louder. Daniel, on the other hand, was stunned. He had never imagined that the man who intervened was the store's owner. "Your name?" the owner asked the saleswoman. I'm Carla, sir," she stammered. "Well, Carla, consider this your last day here. I do not tolerate prejudice, especially in a place that is supposed to treat every customer with respect." Carla tried to respond, but the man raised his hand, signaling for silence. He then turned to the security guard. "And you, leave your uniform at the front desk before you go." The security guard began to protest. "But, sir, I was only following." "You were following your own prejudices, and that has no place in my store." The owner cut him off, his patience clearly worn thin. Daniel stood in silence, still processing everything that was happening. For the first time that day, he felt like someone saw him as a human being rather than a threat. The store owner looked at him with a kind smile. "Let me help you with your purchase. It's the least I can do." Daniel finally smiled, feeling a mix of relief and gratitude. He followed the store owner to the counter, while the former employees left with their heads down. Still in shock from the sudden turn of events, Daniel watched as the owner, with a simple gesture, called over a new sales associate. Unlike Carla, this saleswoman had a warm and welcoming demeanor. "Show the young man exactly what he asked for," the owner instructed, pointing to the photo of the bracelet Daniel had shown earlier. As the saleswoman left to retrieve the item, the owner turned his attention back to Daniel. "Young man, I'd like to apologize on behalf of my store for everything that happened today. Not only is it unacceptable, but it's also shameful." Daniel swallowed hard, trying to hold his composure. "I've experienced situations like this before, but I never thought it could be this humiliating. All I wanted was to buy a gift for my mom." The man nodded, his eyes filled with empathy. "And you have every right to buy that gift without being treated this way. Let me tell you something. When I created this store, my goal was to offer a luxurious yet welcoming environment for everyone, not to fuel prejudice. Unfortunately, not everyone shares the same vision." The new sales associate returned with the bracelet, presenting it to Daniel with a genuine smile. "Here it is. It's truly a beautiful piece. I'm sure your mother will love it." Daniel took the bracelet, admiring its shine. It was exactly what he had imagined. He looked at the store owner and, with a mix of gratitude and hesitation, asked, "How much will it cost?" The owner shook his head and smiled. "Today it won't cost you anything. Consider it a gift from the store for your mother." Daniel's eyes widened in surprise. "No, please, I saved up to buy this. I want to pay for it." The owner placed a friendly hand on his shoulder. "Understand, this isn't about money. It's about making things right. Let me do this." For a moment, Daniel hesitated, but he finally accepted, feeling a wave of relief and gratitude. He knew that the gesture couldn't erase what had happened, but it meant a lot to him at that moment. As Daniel prepared to leave, the owner made a point of accompanying him to the door. Before saying goodbye, he addressed the other customers who were still watching the scene. "I want you all to remember this. No one should be judged by their appearance. Our store is open to everyone, without exceptions." The murmurs stopped, and some customers even applauded quietly. The owner's gesture didn't go unnoticed, and his message resonated strongly. Daniel walked out of the store with the bracelet in hand and his head held high. He knew that day would be unforgettable, not just because of what he had endured, but also because of the lesson in dignity and respect he had received. As he walked through the bustling streets of the city, Daniel held the bracelet box tightly. It wasn't just a gift for his mother, but a symbol of something much greater. He reflected on what had just happened, how a humiliating experience had turned into a moment of victory and growth. When Daniel got home, he handed the gift to his mother, who opened the box with tears in her eyes. "My son, this is beautiful. You didn't have to do this for me," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I did, Mom. You deserve this, and so much more," Daniel replied, hugging her tightly. But he knew the gift carried more than just love. It carried a story that needed to be told. Sitting next to his mother, Daniel shared everything that had happened at the store. He talked about the prejudice, the humiliation, and finally, how a stranger stepped in to restore his dignity. His mother, a strong and wise woman, sighed deeply after hearing the story. "You know, my son, life tests us in ways we don't always understand. But what truly matters is how we respond to those situations. Today, you showed courage and dignity. That's what's important." Her words resonated deeply with Daniel. He knew that, despite everything, he had emerged from the experience stronger, with a deeper understanding of the value of empathy and respect. A few days later, the story went viral on social media. A customer who had been in the store that day had recorded part of the incident and posted it online. The video showed the moment Daniel was humiliated, but also captured the powerful intervention of the store owner. The response was overwhelming. People from all over the world shared the video, praising the store owner's actions and condemning the prejudiced behavior of the employees. Messages of support poured in for Daniel, who finally felt that his voice was being heard. The store, in turn, issued an official statement. Along with a public apology, they announced the implementation of mandatory training for all employees, focusing on combating discrimination and prejudice. In the end, Daniel's story wasn't just about a bracelet or a purchase. It was about something much bigger. The daily struggle faced by so many against deep-rooted prejudice and the urgent need for real change in society. And what about you? Have you ever faced a situation where you had to fight for respect and dignity? Share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one. See you next time.